Hi loves, it's Olivia. You are welcome to my channel. Today I'll share with you how to draft a cap corset, and it's really beginner friendly, so keep on watching and let's just get started. The first step is to draft an off shoulder pattern. Okay, from the top I came down by 1 inch to serve as a starting line, as well as from the center. For the amount of paper I used, I divided the bust by 2, and then I added extra 4 inches. And for that, I divided that measurement I got into two, one part for the front, the other for the back. Okay, so now determine how off you want the corset to be, but take note, if the off shoulder you want to draft is high, your corset would look funny. I used 6 inches, but it's high, and I might go ahead and trim whilst sewing. Okay, so depending on how you want it, measure yourself or your client and determine that. All right, so right on the starting line I'll place the 6 on it, the 6 inches on it. Then I'll measure shoulder to nipple 9.5, shoulder to under bust 12 and half, shoulder to half length 17, and the full length of your desired top, or if you are making just half length, you stop at your half length. Okay, I'll repeat this across the paper and also join the points together. For the chest line, just measure your shoulder to chest line and note that, or you might as well go up from your bust point line by 1.5. Okay, measure your bust band or your nipple to nipple and then divide that into two equal parts. Okay, from the center of your work, mark that measurement on your full length, your half length or your waist, your underbust, as well as your nipple point. We will put these lines into straight line. On the half length, we are going to take 1 inch on both sides from the line. On the underbust as well, we'll repeat the same thing. Now we'll put that to a straight line. So we are going to connect each of the dart legs to the full length. Okay, so go up by 1 inch or half inch and connect like this. Right on the nipple point, we are going to come up by 1 inch and go down by 1 inch. If the person is not busty, use 0.75. okay, so I'll connect from the 1 inch down with a curve to the under bust like this, and then the other side I'll repeat the same thing. Add half inch to your bust band measurement and measure it on your starting line. Okay, so I'm going to mark this. That will be 4 inches for me, and I'm going to connect that to the 1 inch up, that's from the nipple point, just like this. On both sides of the line, I'm going to use 0.75, a total of 1.5, and I'll connect each of them like this with a curve. Okay, so reduce 2 inches from half of your crossback measurement and place that on the starting line like this. Mine is 5.5. I'm going to place it here like this, and I'll replace the 1.5 dart intake on the chest line, quarter of the bust, and I'm going to replace any little dart there. Now on the underbust, quarter of the underbust, and I'll replace the 2 inches dart intake. The same applies to the half length, quarter of the half length, you replace the dart intake. Now from this new line, I'll connect with the armhole curve to the chest line like this. Okay, now the lower part, you can measure around where your top will stop, or whatever measurement you have at the half length, you add 1 inch to it and you mark. Okay, so I'll connect like this just for guideline, because we are going to shape the waistline like this. All right, so let's move on. If you want a half length, that means you exclude the lower part. You just measure from your shoulder to half length and you have an off shoulder like this. Now the concept we are using here is to draft an off shoulder and adapt a cap corset from the off shoulder. Okay, let's move to the back. Now normally our back is mostly shorter than our front because we have breast at the front. Okay, so you can measure yourself, whatever difference you have, you take it away from the length of the full front that we used. Okay, so mine is 2 inches, so from the lower part I'm going to go up by 2 inches like this, because standard is 2 inches and mine is also 2 inches. Okay, so the back will be shorter than the front by 2 inches. All right, so that's the length of our back. Now here we are going to input our bust span, half of our bust span, and we'll repeat that to the nipple point like this, then the bust line, sorry, and we'll connect them together like this. Okay, so if you want to introduce a dart, then you mark half an inch from both sides and you connect with a dart leg. That's if you want that. Now our back is not as straight as our center back as you are seeing it. It's kind of curvy, so we are going to go in from the full length by half an inch. Half an inch is fine, and we should do this before even introducing the darts, but it's fine. Okay, so I'll connect to the chest line like this, and now any other measurement you are going to take will start from the new center back line. Okay, that's the black line you are seeing, away from the first center back, if that makes sense. Okay, just as the front, on the starting line, half of the shoulder minus 2 inches. We ain't replacing any dart because there is no dart, so keep it that way. All right, then on the chest line, quarter of the bust, there is no dart there, so no replacement. On the under bust, quarter of the under bust, there is a little dart intake there, so you replace the dart intake if you want to include that in your work. Okay, on the waistline or the half length, same thing. Make sure all measurements start from the new center back. Please take note, whatever measurement you did on the front, you did the same thing, and you replace that intake if you want to use that. All right, so I'll connect all the points together, and if you want to add zipper allowance, the zipper allowance will start from the new center back. All right, so now we'll connect our armhole together from the line, just like this. You are free to alter your center back, the depth of your center back, the way you want. So for me, I'm going to mark 1 inch down from the chest line, and then I'll connect it to the other line this way. Then I'll connect this line upwards like this. That's the middle one, straight up. Okay, now I am not going to use that, so I'm not going to cut off the dart. Okay, now most people sometimes like their back to be closed even though they use grommet. So you can keep your back like this if you don't want to take any inches from your back. Moving on to the front, since our back is shorter than our front by 2 inches, that's for me, I'm going to introduce a bust dart with the 2 inches. Okay, so from the nipple point or the nipple line, I'm going to come down by 2 inches and I'll divide that into 2, and from the bust point 1 inch like this. You must as well use just half an inch, and I'll connect each of them like this. All right, I'll separate the front from the back so we can close the bust dart easily. I'll also slash from here, and then I'll stop right here. Now let's measure from the center of our work half an inch this way to the nipple point, and we'll connect it with a straight line. Now if you follow me, you know that I like to measure from here and make sure on both sides they are the same. If there is any shortage, I replace it. So I'm going to make up for that shortage here, and now I'm going to measure my cleavage. I'll just come down by half inch. If you want deeper, you measure deeper. Just measure from your shoulder to where you want the cleavage to be. Now I'll connect from this new line down here. Okay, then with a half an inch, I'll connect with a straight line like this, and then from this line 1.5 in, I'm going to mark 1.5 in as a guideline. I'll use the curve to just curve this way. Make sure the curve sits under the underbust like this, and now one part of the cap has been shaped from the off shoulder. All right, I'll name this one 1. Okay, now let's close the bust dart. I'll slash from here and stop. Then I'll be able to close the bust dart easily. All right, so I'll fold one point should meet the other just like this, and I'll close it with my masking tape. Then I can now shape out the second cap. Okay, so you see there is a shortage after closing the dart, so we'll just make a straight line from there to the chest line, just like this. Okay, now we've made up for the shortage. Next, come in from your chest line by 1 inch like this. Then connect with your curve, making sure the curve sits on your underbust, and then you connect together. Okay, so if you want your corset without an armhole, connect from this line like this. I'll just use my free hand, connect like this, and then you've gotten your tube, okay, without the armhole. All right, and then for your back is just going to have the chest line. Okay, we will close back the darts at this point so we can curve the lower part of the top. Okay, from the half length of the waist, I'll come down by 1.5. It depends on what you are going for. Then I'll connect to the center like this. All right, so this is what I want. You may connect from the waistline to the length. For safety, I'm going to measure the front like this wherever the front stops, and I'll measure the same thing on the back, and then I'll take note of that point, okay, just to be safe. Then I'll connect from that point to however I want the bag to be. You may want it to be straight on the half length or like this. Okay, do whatever pleases you. Now your cap corset can be half length like this or full length. Now I'll go ahead and cut the cap out, and this is what I have right now. We have an off shoulder without a cap, and now we'll cut out our cap. So I hope you've enjoyed this video as I also did. Don't forget to like the video if you've learned something. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Now if you want to take few inches from your center back, measure that and then take it off just like this. Okay, now I took 1.5, so this is now my new back. I'll cut it off. You might just leave your back like this, but I'm going to just cut it into two. And if you introduced a dart, make sure you take off the dart. All right, I'll label each part just to be safe. Okay, and then on all the parts we are going to add half-inch allowance, and the sides of each part your desired sewing allowance. All right, so for the cap, I've placed the cap down and I'm going to add half an inch. The half an inch is for sewing allowance, and all other parts of the corset except the side. Okay, so the top also half an inch, all the parts make sure you add half an inch sewing allowance. Now I'm indicating the points so that I can notch that part. So this is it. I've added all the allowance and the side seam allowance, both the top, the down, and any other part. And then I also cut the lining as well, so that will be 4 on each part. All right, so I'll see you in my next video. Bye.